to the wider conference right here at the Senton Convention Centre. All right, as promised, my very first guest, let's welcome Honourable Minister with responsibility for sport in Jamaica. That is Minister Natalie Neita-Headley. Minister, thank you so much for your time this morning and welcome to AM News. Minister, what are the main challenges facing WADA in relation to Jamaican sports?
We then went ahead and established our own Anti-Doping Act in 2008 and established our own Anti-Doping Commission, something that many other countries still have not yet done. And so we showed very early our commitment to doping-free sport, because I believe Jamaica would have considered itself perhaps more of a victim of doping in those days rather than victimizers. But I believe that in recent times, specifically last year, there was a period prior to the Olympics where, because of some budgetary constraints, perhaps not as many tests would have been done by the local organization. It, however, is very clear by the IAAF statistics that our athletes prior to the Olympics were the most tested in the world. And those statistics have been published by the IAAF. So there is no other athlete at this time, which I believe in athletics, who has been more tested than Usain Bolt, for example, in and out of competition. So whilst we know that we have some work to do at the local organizing anti-doping agency, that work has commenced in earnest. Additional budgetary support has been given to that organization by the government. We have literally increased the number of tests this year over last year by some 150%.
All right. Now, Natalie, just to get in there very quickly, drugs and doping, the methods are changing and getting so sophisticated with time. Are you having enough available methods to actually upkeep with the ever-changing sophistication of these drugs?
I believe that WADA has been good in publishing as frequently as it can a banned list, an updated banned list, which allows for our athletes to be educated and to know what it is that they should stay away from. One of the things that happens, I believe, quite frequently, and something that I'm very strong against at this point, is how it is that we will get an opportunity to assist our athletes in understanding where we are with supplements. And that is a challenge for us at this time. And I believe that because they're food supplements, many of our athletes would believe that it would be okay. Most of these supplements are okay to take out of competition. So they're not thinking it's something harmful to them. But in competition, they are banned. And so there's that fine line and that fine distinction. Those supplements can also be contaminated because supplements and supplements manufacturers are not regulated. And so you can get a batch that is good and you can get a batch that is contaminated. And so I'm on a pretty strong campaign against supplements at this time, because I am not sure that with Jamaica's history of sports for the last more than 100 years. We have been doing well at the Olympics since 1948, and we have medaled in every single Olympics except for two in those periods during the World War. And so we have shown that we have not had this overnight success in sport. Jamaica is not, as a result of any doping, become a great sporting nation. Our sports has been developed through a systemic and systematic process of institutionalized boys and girls championships in our schools, a PE curricular and a PE sports physical education development program, which works well for us. We have the best high school championships in the world, and that started in 1910. When we have our championships, it's difficult for the BBC and many other international media to get accredited. That's our high school championships. Our own Usain Bolt in 2002 dominated those high school championships. Right. And so we have shown over time our athletes in 1948 won gold in the 400 meters, and then ran and won silver in the 800, the same athlete in the 800 meter, right? And world records were broken by Dr. Cynthia Thompson back in 1948.
True.
So we have established that we have had a history. We're a small country, but we have talent.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now, Minister, many sportsmen and women claim that they turn to doping because of the high pressures to win. Do you feel this is a general consensus amongst athletes all over the world, specifically in Jamaica as well?
You know, it's become quite competitive, right? And I think that doping generally is a problem across all sports. And it has shown itself in many different cases. I'm sure I don't have to mention some of them here, because most of us would be aware of that fact. And this competitive spirit and this need to win, and with the remuneration that is now being offered for sport, it's quite a bit of wealth. It is a $1 trillion industry. And so there might be quite a number of athletes who would feel tempted to want to have that edge, to want to be able to make a difference in terms of where they place on the track. But we have not had that experience in Jamaica. I'm not saying that our athletes are not equally tempted, because we're humans, I'm sure. But we have a responsibility to ensure that our Anti-Doping Commission does what it has to do, because we are committed to dope-free sport, and we are also committed to protect our clean athletes.
All right, and Minister, finally, tell us about what is two-day inspection trip to Jamaica. What took place? What was the inspection for? What brought it about in the beginning?
Well, once we had the first set of adverse findings, we had written to the president of the IAAF, just reaffirming our commitment to ensuring dope-free sport and to strengthen our processes. We then at that time indicated that we would welcome a visit from WADA to Jamaica, and the Prime Minister herself had written that letter, copied to Mr. John Fahey. That's where it began. Subsequent to that, there have been other issues relating to people having written documents and articles and so on. But that's where it was initiated. And we were happy for that visit. We had very frank and fruitful discussions, very constructive discussions, and I believe that the partnership which has now been established between us and WADA is going to be most helpful going forward. I think what has happened over the years is that collaboration, though it has existed, it has not been strong. And I think it has now been strengthened. So because we are small developing states, and where we fall short, we must be able to turn to the international organization. We are a surrogate of WADA. We are a child of the parent body, and we want to be good children. And so they need to help us to ensure that we can be the best children we can be.
Thank you so much. That is a Minister with responsibility for sport in the Jamaican sporting fraternity, Natalie Neita-Headley, telling us that Jamaica is currently boasting a lot of anti-doping sports men and women. We'll be crossing back to you with more interviews here from the Centre Convention Centre.